Hey guys, I'm back. I have taken one day off of filming and I already feel like an alien in front of this camera. But yesterday I was just itching to repot. That was in my plan yesterday and then I got sick. So now I'm just feeling, I think I'm feeling a little bit overly ambitious because I have a lot of plants here that need to be repotted. And it's not so much the quantity that need to be repotted, but it's like the size of them. But we're gonna try before things get exponentially messy in this plant room. But it's just staring at me through the crack like this. Before things get really messy, I'm just gonna show you kind of who's on the roster today and just tell you why I feel like they need a repot. So you would have seen this guy in my recent February favorites video. This is my philodendron, I almost said Dean McDowell. This is my philodendron SP Columbia, SP Silver. She's doing really well. She's just in a no drainage pot in pond, a very perlite heavy pond. But you can see that the roots, they don't look fantastic. I already know that there's a lot of dead roots in there from, I don't know if they were import roots or what, I can't 100% remember. Even though it's growing really well, I'm just not liking the way that this is looking. And it's always kind of a gamble because, okay, just in my experience, just because you see sort of old roots rotting or old roots dying off, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of bad things going on under here, and it doesn't always necessarily mean that your plant needs a repot. I have so many plants, specifically import plants, where I'll get those import roots potted, they die off, new roots form, and then they just grow in the same vessel for like, I don't know, like a year or a year and a half, and it's totally fine. And sometimes when you're trying to do good, and this has probably been the case with me more often than not, you end up doing more bad than good when you try and help it. But I'm just kind of listening to my spidey senses. If my ear keeps clicking, does anyone know why my ear clicks? It doesn't click all the time. It's usually just this time of day. It's so strange. It's 12:30 and it's always in these like afternoons, like these late mornings, early afternoons, where my ear, it just like makes this clicking sound when I talk. Anyway, yeah, you often do more harm than good, and I don't know, I'm just, again, I'm listening to my spidey senses, and I just feel like she would be better off in a new pot, have these roots cleaned off, do some root trimming, and I'll kind of show you the process of that. But the question that I was having really with this one is, do I get this into a horizontal planter? Because you can see it was growing up, and now it's kind of crawling to the side. And I could allow it to grow vertically if I get it onto a pole, but I don't know, at the same time I kind of just want to let it do what it wants to do naturally, which is crawl. I do have a pot that I could put it in, but I don't know. I have to think about it. So this one might be one of the last ones that we do. The smallest repot that I have to do is the Syningia leucotricha. It's really not doing terribly. It's just that this soil has become really hydrophobic. Whenever I water it, the water sits on the top for like a whole minute before it slowly like goes down, and it's just not, yeah, it's just not working for me. So I do want to get it into some new soil. I want to get it into a slightly bigger pot. This root system isn't massive, so I don't want to upsize it too much, but I will go just a little tiny bit bigger. Another one you would have seen in my February favorites is my Anthurium Roquianum Esmeralda. I really didn't want to repot this so soon after a new leaf came out, but she has needed a repot for a long time. So she's in the same vessel that I got it from Lauren. And there are drainage holes, but it has been sitting in a pot with no drainage, so it's kind of like it's been in no drainage, but it's just bursting out of here, and I can feel how solid this is. The roots have nowhere else to go, and eventually they're all just gonna go upward, which is what I don't want. So I'm going to repot this one, still get it in soil, and hopefully she will like me for it. One of the main reasons why I wanted to repot this somewhat soon is because this stem is getting pretty long, and I want to get this whole thing sort of submerged under substrate, and I want to get these aerial roots tucked in as well. So hopefully we can get some new roots on this bad boy. Okay, sorry, there's a lot going on here. I've tried this new system where before I do these repots, I actually try and find my vessels for them first, so I'm not doing it mid-filming. But this is my philodendron Sherburchii. This one has been water rooted. I haven't taken it out of this vessel in a while, but this has sort of become really dark, and I'm not sure if it's mushy or not. I mean, I guess I could take it out, but I just don't like the way this new, no, she's firm. I don't like the way this new leaf came out, but I'm also not surprised that it looks like this. It's completely dead. I'm basically just gonna rip this off. I find sometimes with philodendrons that when you propagate them, especially when they're bigger, sometimes that first leaf that comes out of that prop just comes out completely either like mangled or deformed or underdeveloped, but then the next one that comes out after it is like completely normal, like it never skipped a beat. So I was honestly expecting this next leaf to look pretty much like this. It's fine because I'm just gonna rip this leaf off. There's no point in keeping it. It is completely dead. This thing is just gonna turn all the way brown, but I do want to get it repotted and I want to get it on a pole right away because I would love to try and keep this size if possible. So yeah, we'll see how successful I am with that. Second to last one is this Anthurium King of Spades. So if you watched, gosh, I think it would have been my week of plant to-dos that went up in December. I chopped this plant for my amazing friend Amanda. I did it very hastily right before I left for California, and I just repotted it right away. I think I actually repotted it on camera. I was pretty nervous about it. I wasn't feeling super great about it, but at the same time, I don't know. I didn't want to like overly worry about it, so I was like, you know what, I'll deal with you when I get home. And sure enough, I came home to a rotted plant. I did have to chop off a little bit more of the stem, but we have some new roots coming in, thankfully, which I wasn't really worried about. This plant has actually been super resilient through a lot of the things I've put it through. And yeah, I just never sort of doubted the ability of this plant to bounce back. So now that these nice thick juicy roots are coming in, I want to actually get it into pond right away so that it doesn't undergo more shock when I try and transfer it. I just find that with Anthurium roots this thick, I prefer to get them into its permanent substrate sooner than later. I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a hard time waking up today. It's already 1 p.m. and I haven't seen the light yet. I'm still like, I feel like I'm drifting. And then the last one on this repotting roster is this philodendron gloriosum white veins that I got from Alice, who got it from Erin. This is actually just a foster, but Alice is like the gloriosum queen and she has so freaking many kicking around, so she's like, please take this from me. And I didn't have this form yet, so I was happy to do it. But you guys can see she's struggling. She's pushed up right against this pot and she's pushing out a new leaf. And typically I don't like to do any repots when an emergent leaf is coming out. But in a case like this where like this new leaf is gonna have nowhere to go, I'm just gonna risk it for the biscuit and we're gonna help her out if I get slapped one more time. So before we get into this repotting chaos, I have purchased my only bag of soil for the year. I think I don't know when I would have announced it. I act like you guys remember every single thing from my videos, but I have vowed to only buy 1 bag of soil per year. I'm allowing myself a 20-liter bag, which is this large. It's not, I mean, it's a good size. I would say that this is pretty standard for people in the indoor plant hobby. But I would say for the amount of plants that I have, it seems like very little, but that's because I would say that most of my plants are in pond, which is great because I am able to just reuse it over and over again, and I'm only using soil very rarely. So I'll be able to make that stretch all year for sure, especially once all the amendments are added. I'm like completely out of soil, so I do need to mix a new batch. So I thought maybe instead of doing it off camera, I would give you guys kind of an updated soil mixture, like what I'm doing right now. So how am I gonna do this? Yes, let's just go on the floor. While looking for all of my supplies, I found this leftover bin of soil, which I don't know where the frick it came from. I've had these 2 large pieces of charcoal forever. I'm gonna leave one in here, even though it's probably not doing much, and then I'm gonna put this one in my bag of soil. This one is pretty much just soil out of the bag. Ew, is that a worm? What the frig? Where'd it go? I guess I'll find it when I don't want to find it. Okay, this is too large. So I'm gonna add more soil to this, obviously. Take this out for now. I'm gonna be adding some coarse perlite. This is grade 4, I believe. I'm also going to be adding some pumice. I probably should have sifted this before, but you know, we're already here. I'll also be adding some biochar, and I got this biochar from North Shore Tropicals. Oh my gosh, this is gonna get messy. And I'm pretty much just like eyeballing everything, you guys. I don't really have like exact measurements anymore. I feel like in the first year of the hobby, I was like so precise about everything, and now I'm just like, yeah, no. It's pretty much the way I cook too. You just use your heart. Oh my gosh, there's biochar everywhere. Okay, I'm also gonna be adding what I call my yucky pon. This is pon that I've saved from like repots, like other repots that haven't really been picked of all of the little things in it, like dead roots and stuff. It has been sterilized, but I just don't like to use this kind of pon back into my pon mix, so I use it in my soil. I just find it very hard to throw out soil or throw out pon. It's so expensive, and like the nature of it being able to be reused, it just, I don't know, it feels like a crime to throw it away. So put it in there, and then I'm also using some reptile bark, and this is just, I don't know if there's like a grade, but it's like the, I guess the finer grade reptile bark. And I'm using this in replacement of orchiata or like fir bark. I mean, this is fir bark, but I guess like the horticultural fir bark, it works just fine. I use it and it's a lot cheaper, and that's all I care about. And I just get this fir bark at PetSmart, or really any place that they have stuff for reptiles. I've also seen it sold on Amazon, but I think it's more expensive. I used to make the base of my soil a lot chunkier than this. Like if you watch my first soil video that I ever did, just sort of as I've gotten more into this hobby and just really kind of understanding my own conditions a lot better, I've just understood a better mix for my plants, because what I was using before was way too chunky. It was just drying out so fast. My roots were rotting from dry rot, and now I'm more comfortable using a denser mix as my base, especially for plants that get a lot of light, either from the sun or from grow lights. So for my philodendrons that are living in my plant room, I am totally fine with using a denser mix because I know it's getting a ton of warmth, it's getting a ton of light, and the water is going to be used up or evaporated in that vessel. But for my Anthurium Baroquianum Esmeralda, I'll probably add a little bit more amendments since it's not getting as much light as some of the other ones I'm repotting today. And that's because if I have a plant that's not getting a ton of light, not getting a ton of warmth, that water is just going to be sitting in that soil for way too long, and then that's how you get stuff like wet rot. But it's, yeah, I kind of try and alter my substrate mix just depending on like the condition that I'm keeping it in or the environment I'm keeping it in. Yeah, so it's not like this mix is going to just be for every single one of my plants. If there's a plant that is thirstier, I'll maybe add more pumice. If there's a plant that tends to rot easier, I might add more perlite. So the great thing about making sort of a base mix is that, you know, you can add different amendments later. So I added a little bit of my dirty pon, and then I'm also adding a mixture of husk and moss that's been sort of like shredded up and mixed together. And I find that the combination of this, especially the sphagnum moss, really helps with root growth during a transition. Like if you're transplanting a new prop into soil, I just find that like the roots take to it so much easier than just going from that to straight soil. So I don't add too much, but I add enough to kind of make that, I don't know, the texture I'm thinking of. It just kind of just makes the roots more comfy, I guess. Another thing I usually like to add are just the leca clay balls, but I am not adding it to this mix because I'm actually running low on leca and I need it for my no drainage vessels when I do sort of a parfait method on it. So yeah, it's a little bit like denser than I'd like it to be. I feel like the addition of the leca really helps bring more of those air pockets into the substrate. I wish I could just find a little tiny bit. Let me check my closet and see if I can dig up some leca that I could spare. This mix is looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. I like that it's dense enough that I can pot it straight into a plant that, you know, would like a little bit more water retention in the substrate. But it gives me a lot of flexibility if I want to add like a ton more perlite, which I probably will for some of these plants today. But yeah, that is done. Oh my gosh, I'm tired and I haven't even started yet. Okay, and I'm starving, I'm shaking, and I asked Vince to bring home pizza. And I'm sweating, I don't feel good. All right, let's start with the easy one first. I'm gonna do the Sinningia leucotricha because it's small and we're just gonna get warmed up. Whoa, 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 I'm falling out of the chair. I'm actually pretty scared to handle this one because the roots are so delicate. And I'm scared this thing is gonna throw a fit after being repotted, but you need it, okay? Your pants are too small. Just like all of my pants right now. I'm gonna grab it by the little macadamia nut down here. Hope it all just comes out. Okay, no root breakage, that's good. You can feel something. I feel like my makeup is everywhere. It's so hot in here. Okay. In my last repot, I talked about the merch and how I was having trouble finding someone to work with, and I got so many suggestions and recommendations of different companies from you guys, which has been so helpful. So I have been looking into all of them, and I'm just kind of trying to see who could be a good fit, and also looking at quality and, you know, sustainability things, because I don't want anything really made overseas. I would like if production was somewhere in Canada or in the States. Actually, most of the suggestions I got met those requirements, but I'm still looking into it. It's just been kind of a busy month. So thank you guys for sending all of those recommendations for people who don't care about follower count. It's definitely more reassuring because I was getting a little bit discouraged for sure. I was like, maybe I just don't do merch, but I feel like I want to do at least one run. I don't see myself as someone who's like constantly gonna put out something like every season or something. Maybe like a once a year thing. Part of me kind of wants to get this merch out by October. I kind of like the idea of doing an October launch during my favorite month, and it'll be fitting, you know, to have a reprint of the Tales of the Thrift shirt, and just kind of makes sense to me. So that's my goal right now, is to get something up by September so that things can be shipped by October. Okay, so I do have some dried roots, which is expected, but the root system is actually pretty good. Sorry, I'm shaking. I'm so freaking hungry. I wanted to get as much of that old soil off as possible because it's pretty old, and I wanted to make sure that all the new soil was nice and nutritious with minerals and vitamins. Now the question is, can I do this somewhat orderly? Where am I putting my dirty vessels? Over here. So I'm gonna be potting in this one. It's really not that much larger than the other one, but you can see it definitely has more room to move around than the other one. And this one, it doesn't root very fast. Like, I don't see a ton of root growth on it throughout the year, so I think it'll be able to live in there at least until the end of this year. Oh, thought I had everything. I need my freaking Myco. I'm using TPS Billions. I have this one linked in my description. If you guys are needing to try a new Myco, I highly recommend that one. I was gonna do like a full video on like the Myco review, but I don't really know how that would work. Like, I'd sit in front of the camera and be like, it works really well, I really like it, show you some nice juicy roots and healthy growth, but I feel like that would be kind of redundant, no? I don't know. I've gotten that suggestion to do that video pretty often, but if that's a video you want to see, I'd love some ideas on like what you expect in terms of the content in that video, like the substance, like what are you looking for? Because I'd love to do it, obviously. I have nothing but good things to say about this Myco and another Myco that I'm using, which is Great White. But I guess I don't really know what that video would look like. I feel like I need a smaller spoon. I don't know if you guys can hear my phone. It's going off like crazy. It's probably Alice because we're purging tonight. If you want a sneak peek at the plants that I'm purging, and I guess how the purge does, you can watch the week of plant to-dos that will go up this month, because I am filming this week and I'm filming the plants that I'm purging. So that'll be fun. I haven't done a purge in a really long time, mostly because I'm just too lazy to set up pickups. I think it would be different if I had like a house and a front door that I could just like set it out and be like, here you go, there it is. But every time I have to meet someone for a pickup, I have to like put like outside clothes on because I have to walk through the building and put shoes on, and it's like a whole thing. I know that sounds like so lazy of me, but I really just don't enjoy doing it. When I tell you I don't like leaving my house, it's like extreme. Like I do not like leaving the front door. But we're setting pickup to be at the North Shore Tropicals / Tropicals Plants pop-up event this weekend, which will also be in that week of plant to-dos. Alice at You Don't Even Grow Here on her channel, I think she's gonna do, we haven't really kind of talked about what the filming situation is gonna be, because lately we've been trying to not double cover like content, like if we both do like a pop-up video. So I think I'm just gonna let her sort of cover most of the event, and then I'll just incorporate little bits and bobs into my week of plant to-dos. So yeah, we're doing pickup at the event so that people can just drop by, grab it, and be done with it. Okay. I don't know how people keep these things upright because mine likes to like sort of droop and go to the side. So I'm just using a little coffee stir stick and one of these clips, and I'm just kind of clipping it on and hoping that it stays. And I need to just reinforce this stick a little bit. Now she's done. That wasn't too bad. That was a good warm-up. I think the next one that I'll do is, I feel like I should try and tackle all the soil plants first since my soil is already out. So that would be the Esmeralda. She is so freaking rooty. Just talking random tea here. Not really tea, but I guess kind of tea. Sorry, Lauren, to bring up old skeleton, not really skeletons, but there was a point in time, I think it was maybe the beginning of 2020. No, not 2020. The beginning of 2021 or like the end of 2020, or maybe even earlier than that, when Lauren got a few like really bad reviews about plants not being rooted. And I just don't believe you, because this thing was like this rooty pretty much when I acquired it. And pretty much every single plant that I've gotten from her is so rooty that I'm like wrestling with the substrate to try and get it out of her pot. And I know that I might sound biased because we're friends, but that was the case even before her and I got close. Like when I used to just buy plants from her during purges or from her website or whatever, like that was like one thing that I always noticed, was that the plants were just so freaking rooty. I'm glad this one is actually in soil and not moss, and I believe that this one is in soil because it was part of her personal collection that she parted with, luckily for me. Whew, okay, where do I put you? We're gonna be organized here, remember? Now let's see if I can get this untangled. Let me give you a closer look. I wanna be very gentle because these roots are beautiful. You know, there are so many different types of repotting styles. There are some people who would just pluck this out as is and then get it into a new pot. But I don't think that I can ever be that kind of person. I really like to like get in there and see what's going on. I like to sort of remove a lot of this soil in the center of the root ball that's like not nutritious anymore, and I just want to get new soil touching all of those roots. But I do have to make a judgment call sometimes, like for plants that I'm very afraid of, like if they have a history of rooting or rotting or just throwing a fit during repots, I'll just pluck it out and get it into a larger pot. And I'm pretty sure I've done that a few times on camera before. But for a plant like this, I'm not super worried about it. And because this root ball is so dense, I really want to get it separated so that these roots can move around a little bit better. But honestly, plants just figure out a way to survive no matter what you do sometimes. Oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about pizza. This is not good. I haven't had pizza in a while. I've been trying to eat like healthier lately to get like my health back on track, but I feel like my uterus is just constantly trying to what's the word? It's just trying, my uterus is constantly like sabotaging me. I feel like I can feel a huge chunk in here, and if there is, that's gonna be very exciting. I feel like I could chop it and give a chunk to Alice. I don't even know if she wants one of these, but sometimes we don't give each other the choice and we just hand plants to each other against each other's will. And that's on friendship. I knew it. freaking knew it. Now the question is, should I chop? 'Cause she's doing so good, but most of these roots are up at the top. It would be nice to kind of offload a few of the roots. I think I could at least make a small cutting. I don't think I need to chop off a lot of it because, again, I'm not really propagating a lot. And the only reason I would propagate is to share with my friends or my mom. But my mom's not a huge anthurium lover. She's voiced that to me, that she's not like, I don't know, she's not a huge anthurium girl, but she does love her philodendrons. So anytime that I can chop one of my philodendrons or one of my monsteras for her, I will. But I don't feel like this is one that she'd be super excited about. These roots are beautiful. My goodness, love to see it. All right, now the question is where to chop. I feel like I could chop this big chonkaroni off for her down here, but I also don't want to chop too much because I don't want to stress the plant out. But there's like ideally I'd like, oh, you can't see anything, so that's good. Ideally I'd like to chop right here. Okay. But I don't want to stress it out too much. So we've got to talk ourselves through this sometimes. What is the best course of action here? There's definitely some nodes here that she can propagate. I already see one that kind of looks like it wants to pop out. But I would like to give her at least one tiny root system to work with. So I think I know exactly where I'm going to chop. Okay, oh my gosh. Take this freaking soil. I keep freaking dipping my elbow in like a freaking chicken tender. Okay, so I think where I'm gonna chop is right here, and I'll show you why in just a second. Don't cut yourself. Oh, I'm doing it the wrong way. Oh, she's solid. I need a, oh, what are those called? Chop trees down? Oh man, I went way too close to that root I was trying to get. Whoops. That was a close call. Holy smokes. I chopped it like right where the root is, and I was trying to go a little bit above that. But we've got at least 2 auxiliary points, I would say, on this chonk. It's just a matter of finding it. But I also, they also look kind of like dead. Okay, how about I keep this one and see if anything happens to it. There's definitely got to be something here. It's really hard to locate auxiliary buds on anthurium sometimes. Everything just looks like a root. Oh, I can see one there, but that's a little bit too high. Honestly, I probably could chop it. You know what? I'm gonna do it because it's my plant and I can do whatever I want. And I feel like, oh wait, Alice already has this plant. Wait, did she kill it? You know what? I'm just gonna chop it anyway. Screw it. I'm chopping where the new growth came out of this chonk. Where are you? Oh my Lanta. Okay, so still have a really, really great root system for my main plant, so I'm feeling good about that. These leaves are just flailing everywhere. And then I've got this nice big chonkaroni that I can give to Alice or Jing or whoever the frick wants it. And I can uncover a little nipple there. And I think there's another one on this side somewhere, but she's lost in the rubble. But also has its own root system, so that's great. But now I've got this guy, which is awesome. So let me change up the angle again and we will get this repotted. So I'm gonna get these little guys handled first. Hey. Oh, I'm trying to connect to my little Bluetooth thing. I talked about this in my vlog, this vlog right here. And I think I also showed it in my week of in December because I got this for my white elephant gift from Jing. If you've been looking for a new thingamajig. Hello? Oh, if you're looking for a label maker, I highly recommend it. I'll link it in the description as well. So I am going to just label this before I forget what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna be potting those two little chonky chunks in these plastic cups. And I'm gonna label it because I'm turning a new leaf, I've decided. It was kind of fun to have like surprise props every once in a while, but once you have like 30 of them, you're like, okay, yeah, you're annoying. So I'm trying to be better at labeling my plants. Speaking of plant labeling, not the very good plant shop. Hello? Propagation Diaries. Jeez Louise. Propagation Diaries released these clear acrylic plant tags, which are beautiful. I definitely like them way more than the standard white plant tag. I just find them to kind of be eyesores. And you can find a label maker that has the clear tape, and then you just have a clear label, and it's like so cute. So maybe that'll be my next thing, but for now this is totally fine. So because I'm working with a fleshy plant, and what I mean by fleshy is when I have these chunks that just have a lot of exposed tissue, then I'll go and use my callousing hormone for the cut ends. And in the callousing hormone is, again, I know so many people are probably sick of hearing this, but I think I'm gonna reuse this soil for these little props. Okay, you go here. Sulfur powder, cinnamon powder, and rooting hormone powder. Expected more roots to fall off. Not complaining. And I'm just gonna bury the roots, but I'm gonna leave the chunk exposed on top of the substrate. So here is cutting number 1 that maybe will go to Alice. I'm just waiting for her to text me back. If she doesn't want it and Jing doesn't want it, then I will just include it in my purge tonight. And then I'm gonna keep this one because I'm not 100% sure if there are any viable auxiliary nodes or auxiliary buds, and I don't feel comfortable selling it if I'm not like 100% sure that there's a possibility. You can't, that's an oxymoron. Is that an oxymoron? I want to be confident that something is going to come out of it rather than just guess if there's an auxiliary bud that's going to wake up. So another prop I don't want to keep, but this is a very magical plant, so I'm not wanting to just throw it away. I really like Lauren's soil mix. She uses like the really coarse fir bark. This is the Willgrow fir bark. And she also uses coarse perlite, but she doesn't, I don't think she sifts it. So she allows a lot of this sort of like really tiny gritty perlite to go into the soil too. But I actually really like how gritty it is. It feels nice. And clearly the plants loved it. I forgot to inoculate that. Whoops. What the hell is freaking dripping over here, dude? Who is it? Who done it? Somebody is dripping. There's like little water droplets on the floor and they keep appearing. I keep wiping them away and then they appear again. Somebody is messing with me. Who is it? Anyway, let's get this top cut potted. I'm gonna dip her in some of this callousing hormone too. So much for trying to stay clean here. That's not gonna happen. This is the vessel size that I am choosing. I wanted it to be a little bit taller so that, like I mentioned, I can get some of this stem underneath the substrate. So, I'm feeling flustered. Let's get this cleaned up because it's not giving. Now I am just wondering if I want to do a layer of leca down at the bottom. The only thing is I think it would be too tall. Like I would need a vessel taller than this. I could use the vessel that I'm using for the Philodendron SP Columbia, but it's not that much taller, and I don't really want to use a super skinny pot either. I mean, I could opt for something like this, but I'm not sure if this root system will like it in there because it's so skinny. Don't look at my armpits or I will sue you. It's not great, but it's not bad. Decisions. I know I have a bigger one somewhere. My only concern is that like, I don't think that this will be able to live in here for as long as I would like it to, especially once these start rooting. So my spidey senses are saying no. Pudge is snoring like a hog in the background. What would Jesus do? I knew I had one. Love when that happens. Okay, so I am gonna opt for leca down at the bottom, and I'm gonna be using black leca purely for aesthetic reasons. It'll just look better with soil. It's a good little layer down here. Don't look at my armpits, I'll see you. Okay, perfect. Oh, just love when that happens. I do actually want to get a slightly chunkier mix for this guy, so I'm gonna reuse this soil for another prop, so I'm gonna leave this in here. You guys know that show on TLC? I think it's on TLC. It's called like Extreme Cheapskates. I feel like I could be on that show. I mean, for a lot of things in my life, but specifically for plants. A lot of people have voiced how appalled they are of me and like my willingness to reuse soil and reuse substrates and things that they just find really disgusting, but I go through one bag of soil a year, if that, and I feel like I'm not as wasteful as I could be, even though it would be more convenient to be wasteful. But this shit is expensive, man. Like, the amount of money, if you guys think about it, the amount of money we spend on rocks and manure and small pieces of wood, it's ridiculous. Something that I also will never understand is like why people get so upset about it. Like I could understand if I was like repotting their plants and they were like, what the hell are you doing with my plants? But like, you guys know that these are my plants, right? I lost so many subscribers after posting my February favorites. Was I just like intensely annoying in that video or something? Was it something I said? I literally don't care. Now we've got a pretty chunky soil mix, and I'm just gonna inoculate this baby. Where are you? Oh. I'm spraying the roots a little bit so that the myco can adhere to it a little better. Now for this top layer, this is a lot of soil for fungus gnats to breed and have segs and then piss me off later. I like to add a dry layer on the top, whether it be sphagnum moss or like bark or something, because I find that it like deters them. They like flock to it and they're like, not wet enough, that's what she said. And then they are on to the next plant. So I'm gonna top this with some of that reptile bark. Okay, that's sticking to my flesh. This lady is done. I'm not going to water this right away. I'm gonna let the myco sit, and also this soil is pretty, it's got some water in it, so I'm not worried about the roots drying out. Maybe tomorrow or the next day I'll add some water to the reservoir down here. It feels so nice to be working with soil. I just find repotting to be so much funner with soil than with pond. I love the growth results in pond. And I have really good like growing experience with soil too, but just working with soil, it just makes me so happy. Who's next? Oh, this damn gloriosum, frickin' heck. Oh my frickin' heck. I forgot that I recently watered this. Let's take you a little bit higher. Hide my coffee unless I want to drink soil. Now, if I can manage to repot this without breaking this new leaf that's emerging, that is going to be a miracle. Okay, here's one thing I freaking hate about drainage holes. Okay, Exhibit A. Oftentimes, you will have a root that grows out one hole, and then it'll grow back into another hole. And then you just have to break it if you can't find where it begins and ends. I mean, more often than not, you have to break them, which is something I hate with a passion. But anywho, I'm just gonna lift this out of here and just hope that, I mean, these are really small roots, so I'm not super worried about it. I just want to save this bigger guy here. It's heavy. Okay. I wish this soil wasn't wet, but I forgot that I freaking watered it. There goes that root. Out. This was Erin's plant, as I mentioned, and she also has a very delicious soil mix. That was one thing that I noticed pretty early on in, I would say, me just meeting her, because our first interaction, if you guys don't know who Erin is, she's Unruly Botany on Instagram. She's not very active anymore because she's a horse girl now. The way that we became friends is I bought a plant from her, and it was a referral, or like my friend was friends with her and she knew what I was looking for and connected us. And when she gave me the plant, I was like, oh my gosh, this soil mix is delicious. And yeah, she just makes it really, she doesn't spare any expense. She buys like a really good fir bark and she puts a lot of it in there. Oh, this would be so much easier if it wasn't wet. It's so heavy. There's a brand new root coming out of this stem, and I do not want to break it because that is going to help me a lot with this transplant, I feel. First signs of acclimatized roots. This stem is literally bent like a dick. Oh yay, Alice wants to take my Esmeralda chunk. I think she had one and it was growing really well, and then one day it just like took a crap. That's just me using my very bad memory, but I think that's what happened. Guys, look at the shape of this chunk. It goes like this. What was that sound effect that I just made? It smells like the ocean. I haven't been to a beach in so long. It's weird like how much my life has changed since moving here. It's like when I was in California, it was like beach weather all the time, camping weather all the time. But it's fine because I'm a hermit now, so I really don't want to leave the house anyway. But one thing I will leave the house for is camping. I like need to camp in order for my mental health to like be stable, and I haven't camped in a long time, which is why I think I've been so bad. So I think I'm gonna make it a priority this year to go camping. And I wish that I could invest in like better camping stuff, like a better tent, just, you know, camping things in general, but I have nowhere to store it and I don't really want to pay for a storage unit. Okay, if this thing doesn't untangle, I'm gonna lose my mind. So I think I'm gonna chop first because this is soil on my boob and it won't come off. I'm gonna just chop this end part here because it's a whole lot of stem with no leaves, all of this here. So now I'm just gonna try and untangle this part here the best I can. So far, so good. Haven't broken anything. Okay, let's get that in there first. My arms are on fire. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a whole lot of root system for a leafless chonk. So what I'm gonna do is do some root trimming. Now, I don't know how many good auxiliary buds I have here, but this chonk down at the very end, you can't see anything. I'm gonna wash my hands and bring you guys closer. But what I was referring to was this end part. You can see how black it is, but just because it is oxidized black or brown on the outside does not necessarily mean it's a bad chonk. But either way, I do want to separate this out into smaller pieces. So I'm going to start at the end. And you can see super healthy. One way that you can kind of see if there's any life left in these chunks, oh my gosh, is to cut open the other end and just see what the color looks like. And I can already tell it's good just based on how firm it is and that sound that it's making. It smells good. Fleshy tissue looks healthy. So this is gonna be fine, and I can see that there is an auxiliary point right here. So this is gonna be okay to propagate. Now, I don't need this many roots on this plant, so I'm gonna do a little bit of root trimming. So this is the newer part of the stem. So I'm gonna start from the back here and remove some of these older roots. So I'll remove this one and this guy here. Let's see how much is left. Okay, well this root here is just way too fucking long. So I'm gonna trim it there anyway. And this one is too fucking long. Trimming as well, and then I'll trim here. I feel like this is still kind of a large root system for this little chonk. So I'm gonna trim even more. And I'm feeling good about this. Okay, so that's cutting number one. Cutting number two, I could probably split into two pieces. I just need to find my auxiliary buds if I didn't slice into it. I actually might just leave this one as is, but this root system is too freaking long. So, wait, which one is the newer part? This is the newest part up here. So I'm gonna start root trimming towards the tail end of this plant. and root trimming is totally fine. You can trim like complete roots off like this, or you can do what I did last time and just snip at the end of it. If it's way too long, it'll callus over and grow new roots. I can already tell you that these two roots are too long. I need to stop slamming my shears on this freaking glass table. I'm not liking how long this one is, and sometimes a lot of these hairline roots will die off anyway in the transplant, so I'm just gonna cut my losses early and just start over. Yeah, I think this is actually a good root system for this size chunk. So I have trimmed off this much, which I feel pretty good about. Before I switch up the angle here, I'm actually gonna get these chunks cleaned off. I am moving it back to soil, but I wanna get the actual chunk cleaned because you guys know how we do it on this channel. If you are new, this is my trusty little earwax scraping tool. I got it in a nail kit for Christmas a couple Christmases ago, and I use it to clean off the chunks. Since there are quite a bit of new subscribers here, since I feel like I last talked about the scraper in depth, I have been doing this method for a few years now, and I basically just like to scrape off some of this dead tissue off of the chunks. I feel like it helps keep your substrate cleaner, for one, especially if you were gonna move this to something like pon or perlite. Yeah, it just keeps a lot of that gunk away, especially if it gets wet, because you can see when it's wet, it has this like consistency of like mud almost. I also find that when you scrape this top layer off, it kind of wakes up the nodes and in a sense sort of puts it into fight or flight and is like, listen, we're under attack and we need to do something, and that something is usually root growth or pushing out new growth from an auxiliary bud, which either one is a good sign when you are working with chunks. And I just find that like the success of my chunks have been way higher than when I used to not do this. A lot of people have been really turned off by this method. And I've said this many times, this is not for everyone. Some people gave it a try and said that they, you know, scraped off auxiliary buds and like they ended up doing more damage, and that's totally fair. It's a pretty invasive process, and it takes a little bit of time to really get used to handling it and like kind of knowing the right pressure to put on it, how to spot auxiliary buds before you start really going in there scraping. But this has just worked for me. I know a ton of people have also been doing this method with a lot of success, and I'm glad that it's been working for you guys. But yeah, oh, and then another issue that people were having with this, or like a concern, is like the bacteria. There was a comment that I got recently. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but they're just like you're damaging the tissues of your plants and you're transferring bacteria. So yeah, and that's true. If you are using like a dirty tool, a rusty tool, you can 100% do a lot of damage to your plants, but I'm not. And I always soak my my chunks in hydrogen peroxide before it goes back into the substrate. I'm not saying that hydrogen peroxide is like gonna 100% guarantee that no bacteria gets into the chunk or whatever, but my success rate is pretty high, and that's really all I care about. Yeah, this, I will never go back to not cleaning my chunks because it's just done, it's just performed so well for me in terms of results. And a lot of my chunks wake up so much faster. Another thing you can do with these little scrapers are if you have a chunk that has an auxiliary bud that's like been dormant for forever and you feel like, okay, it's been more than a year, because sometimes it takes a long time for these chunks to wake up, especially if they're rootless. Some of them will work on roots before they work on growth points, or vice versa. Like you'll get a growth point and no roots. I find that if you have an auxiliary bud that has like that really sort of hard layer crusted over the top of it, like grown over the top of it, and it's like a barky layer. If you just carefully peel it back and expose this axillary point, oftentimes that's all that it needs for it to wake up. And that's worked really well for me for my elbows specifically, or with monsteras. Sometimes you just gotta force them awake, which seems kind of unfair and mean, but you know, I've had chonks before where they've just been sitting in prop bins for like 2 years, and I'm like, listen, I'm not gonna sit here and take care of you if you're not gonna do anything. So you either wake up or you're going in the bin. Okay, so this guy is as clean as I need it to be. And I will just get that soaked in hydrogen peroxide in the meantime. And then I've also got this guy who's pretty clean already. I'm just gonna remove some of this dead tissue around where the old leaves are, or were. While my chonks are soaking in hydrogen peroxide, I think I'm just going to go with another regular pot instead of a rectangular one, since I did chop down quite a bit from that stem. But I am gonna size up, even though the root system isn't nearly the size that it used to be. This next potting thing is gonna be a little bit strange, but I have done this in the past. So I do not have a rectangular planter that I can use for this plant. I would have loved to use one of the black Elho ones, but I don't like that I can't see through the vessel. So I want to go larger than the pot size that it was in before, solely for the diameter of the pot, so that it has a little bit more room to grow. Now the only thing though with sizing up and doing a massive root trim is that this root system is way too freaking small for this plant. So, oh my gosh, my husband's home. And I think he has food. I basically want to remove some of the space that's in this vessel that will be filled with soil. So what I'm gonna do is use something like a plastic pot, and I'm just gonna leave it right in the center here, so that no soil can basically go inside this center, and it'll only just be around. And the reason for that is because I don't want too much soil in this vessel, because this root system is pretty tiny now. And I'll just plant around the pot, or around the cup, and put it sort of at the edge of one side like this, and then just pot normally. But before I do that, like I said, Vince is home, so I'm gonna take a little break. You'll go on an ad break, and I'm going to eat. I feel like a new man. Oh, I love food. Okay, let's continue on. So what I was telling you guys is that I put a cup, and as I have stewed on this a little bit longer, I think I'm gonna opt for a shorter cup, which is somewhere. So this is actually gonna be a better size than this one. It really does not take up that much space, but anything helps in terms of minimizing the amount of soil in here, but being able to keep a wide diameter. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, this has worked fine for me. I've done it with pond, I've done it with leca, I've done it with soil. So yeah, this is not any different. What I'm gonna do is add a small layer of leca down at the bottom. This is what it looks like right now. Then I'm gonna add some soil. It can be a little tricky to stabilize crawlers during a repot. Sometimes I will use river rocks, sometimes I'll use sticks with Velcro tape, and sometimes I use these little clips, these little plastic clips. I don't know if this one is gonna be thick enough for this rhizome, but I'm gonna try. And I essentially just sort of like clip it into the soil to let it stabilize a little bit easier and it doesn't like fall out of the soil. It's still a little bit wobbly, so I'm gonna add a rock just to hold it down a little bit. So she pretty much looks exactly the same as she did before. She just has a shorter rhizome, and now this growth point is like in the center of this pot, and I can probably grow another maybe 3 or 4 leaves until I've got to get it out of here again. I'm actually not doing too bad with the mess. I mean, it's messy, but it's not as bad as it normally would be. Now I need to do these chunks. So it is Saturday in my world. This is probably gonna go up on a Saturday too. Or maybe not, maybe I'll put it up on Wednesday. But anywho, my husband and I are currently watching The Last of Us as it comes out week by week. If you are anywhere on the internet, you probably have heard about the last episode, which was one of the most beautiful freaking episodes in TV history that I've ever seen. I rarely cry or well up when I watch things on TV, but that one got me bad. And yeah, it was beautiful. So we're watching that and I'm thoroughly invested because it's pretty, I would say, comparable to the game. They've definitely made a lot of changes, which I don't mind. I think it's been a great show so far. But we also finished Station 11, which is not the type of TV show I would ever sort of gravitate toward, but it's another sort of post-apocalyptic world show. And it's more of a drama, and it's freaking amazing. It's just so good. So if you've been looking for another show to watch, I highly recommend Station 11. We were going to start Yellowstone because we've heard so many good things about it, and I don't know, sometimes we find it difficult to like dive into a show, especially one that's like pretty established, that has like multiple seasons. It's more of like an investment long term, but we've heard really good things about Yellowstone, so we want to watch that. But I think tonight we're gonna finally watch Wakanda Forever. I heard really amazing things about that as well, so I'm pretty excited. I really haven't had like a night to just decompress and like sit on the couch and do nothing in like a long time, because even if I'm not like filming or if I'm not like editing or working, I'm like, I don't know, I'm like cleaning the house, or I'm like organizing, or I don't know, on Instagram, and I feel like my mind is just really tired. Like I definitely feel like I haven't had a break in a really long time, and it's catching up to me. I've been trying to like check myself lately when I start to feel like I'm going into a bad headspace. And I feel like if I continue this schedule that I've been having, I'm gonna have like a nervous breakdown in like a week. Okay, so I think that's all the soil plants. So I'm gonna put away all of my soil things right now and get tidied up, because now we are repotting pond plants. So I guess all of that to say, those are the kinds of things that I'm watching right now, but I feel like we still need more suggestions. There are like so many shows out there that I get really overwhelmed, and I don't know, I tend to not watch shows unless people close to me that I like really trust, who know the kind of thing that I like, recommends it to me. Otherwise, if I just see like, I don't know, like a BuzzFeed article about a good show, I don't really trust those. So I trust you guys, and I feel like you know me. So if there are any shows or even movies out there that you have loved recently, I would super appreciate the recommendations, because we're just kind of ready to start a new show. All right, so I have the Philodendron Sherbertii, the Philodendron SP Columbia, and my Anthurium King of Spades to repot, and I think I'm gonna start with the King of Spades since that one is already unpotted and it's just in water. And I'm gonna go for this vessel size. Oh, my foot's itchy. Please, please, please take to this well. You know what? I probably need to clean off this stem a little bit too, because I can see a lot of gunky things that I'm not really liking. I don't want to clean this thing for too long because I don't want these to be out of water for too long, because they will dry up very, very fast. So you can see there's like this chunk of old petiole that just came right off. And since this is going into pond, I really want to get it clean because it'll only get mushier as it's submerged in a liquid. But I'm really not going to do too much of a cleaning, only because I think I might have cleaned it last time and I just don't want to overdo it. I'm so surprised there hasn't been a fungus gnat in my coffee all day. I've been filming for like 3.5 hours, by the way. I don't know why I torture myself like this. So here is the finished King of Spades. Why does that sound so weird? King of Spades. That's what the plan is. I don't know why that sounds so weird right now. But she's done. I am hoping for a better transfer this time around. I definitely was a little bit more careful this time. The last time I just like completely rushed it. I feel like I cut it like the day before I left for my trip or something. Or maybe it was like 2 or 3 days before. I don't know. All I remember was that I did it very frantically and in a rush, and I just kind of left it to fend for its own, which was very cruel. But I think we're gonna have a better transition this time around, and hopefully this new leaf doesn't rot or abort before it comes out, since Anthuriums really don't like having anything done to it when a new leaf is coming out. But you know, we did it anyway. Second to last one. Oh my gosh. When will this end? Okay. I'm very nervous, but we're gonna think good thoughts, happy thoughts. No, no, no. Not the right time for the lights to go off. Why did this go off at 4 p.m.? What on earth? It's kind of a vibe. But I can't see jack crap now. Whoa. Whoa. Out you go. Oh, my hair. Oh, I hate hairs. Okay, let's turn my light back on, shall we? The stem is actually really long. feel like you guys know what's coming when I say the stem is long, right? And it's so funny because it's like there have been 1, 2, 3 leaves that have come off for whatever reason, but this lower leaf is still on here. She's a trooper. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Ew, these roots are gross. They're not rotty, not all of them, but just gross. I can tell these are moss roots. And I can actually see moss stuck to it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is find where these oh, okay, so that's dead. Dead root. This root here, is she dead? She's a dead root. This one is fine. Okay, that's what I was hoping for, and I hope this one is good too. All right, so this is where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna chop this bottom off because it looks like I have enough roots to sustain the top, hopefully. I'm gonna chop right here. And I know I said I'm not propagating again, but I think you guys know by now that this one is my favorite SP Columbia, SP Silver, whatever. And I would love to have another one. So I'm gonna propagate this bottom part and see what I can get from it. And I still have all of these roots for the top, which is great. I thought that I would have to trim more roots off, but it looks like all the ones that were like dead are already falling off on its own. I can still see a few that could be trimmed off. So let me just go through this really quickly and see who can be trimmed. So this is a good example of a batch of pon that I would try and remove as much of these dead roots from. I would sterilize it and then I would set it aside so that I can eventually add it to soil, because this one is just gonna have way too many dead roots in it than I'm comfortable with to put back in my main pon bin. It's really a pain in the ass picking these things out, and it's my least favorite part about planting in pon, but it's just kind of what it comes with sometimes. I think I have decided I am going to try and plant this as a climber, or as a crawler instead of a climber, just because I think as it continues to grow, it's just gonna grow more horizontally, and it's just gonna make me angry if it's potted to be potted upward. So let's just get it over with. It's gonna be sort of a weird situation at first, especially since this leaf is down here. I would love to chop it and cut it off, or cut this bottom part off, but then I'll only have this tiny little root system to sustain a large plant. So we're just gonna deal with it. And I think I'm gonna pot it in one of my Muji planters. That was a lot of freaking pon for one plant, but you know what? The princess gets what the princess gets. So she looks really freaking weird now. because she's growing this way. But I'm just gonna put it on the shelf this way and just kind of see what happens. I actually really like the idea of a crawler crawling forward instead of crawling this way, because it's way easier to put this on a shelf than a horizontal planter. But anyway, she's done. Hopefully she does not react poorly to the chop and the root treatment. I would be very, very sad if this one took a decline. But again, I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling good. I'm gonna try and get cleaned up here. Feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but we have one more plant to go. And oddly, I'm tired and I'm feeling winded, but I could probably repot even more. But I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Let's just start with this Sherberichii and see how I feel, because maybe after getting it on a pole, I'm gonna feel differently and be like, see ya. My hands are so chalky and dry, I'm retching. I hate this feeling. Oh crap, my prop. Should I keep this or should I sell it in my purge? Okay, well, I'm gonna get her chonk cleaned up a little bit because it's looking a little crusty. Okay, so in terms of root trimming, I do think I'm gonna trim off some of these roots because they're not nice. I'm gonna do it over the trash actually. As much as I want to keep this because I love this SP Columbia so much, I don't need it. I already have one. Why do I need another one? Like, where would I even put it? I'm gonna sell it. I have to be better at this. I gotta try harder. I think I'm gonna put it in soil actually, because these are very mossy looking roots. Get this guy in here. I could also do moss. Let's do moss. It's gonna be hard to say goodbye, but gotta do it. Oh my lord. I think I'm gonna build out a wood top for this because it just one of these days, and I really hope it happens on camera, I'm just gonna bust through this glass and it's not gonna be pretty. So anyway, I am going to attempt to transition this now. Hopefully, whoa, we have some luck. I don't know if I have enough pond, but see, I had a hair in my mouth. Like I said, I'm just gonna chop this leaf off, and we should have a caterpillar somewhere under here. I don't want to put too much pon on it because it's going to be really heavy and I don't want to suffocate the roots. Oh, it's slimy. Now, I think I'm gonna do tree fern fiber for the actual pole substrate. I think the Sherberichii is done. So here's the potting situation. I just got a tiny bit of tree fern fiber up in that pole just to get it started. And hopefully we have a new leaf that is more normal looking and not halfway melted. Oh my gosh, I need to vacuum in here. But I actually do have it in me for another repot, but I have to film for a week of right after this, so I probably should save my energy. That is the end of what felt like the longest repot of my freaking life. I'm not even like that tired. I just feel like I've been filming for like a really long time. Was I just talking a lot or what? What the heck happened? I feel like I've entered a twilight zone. Like I started filming at like 12:30 or something, and now it's like 4:30. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got some information out of it, whether it be in regard to root trimming or my updated soil mix or whatever else the heck I did in between. But I'm gonna go because I am sitting in the middle of what feels like a disaster zone. I thought I was doing so good keeping clean, but it is a mess. So I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching another video. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of the old and the new subscribers. If you liked it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up because it helps us a lot on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one.